All right, it's a little early, but I'm going to start back up. This is what we just finished. All right, this was part 7. Just to show you what we're going to do for part 8 is we're going to add the images. So if you look on the screen here, all right, that's 7, there's 8. All right, what I'd like you to do, if you remember yesterday when I copied everything over, you have that one folder, I think it's called MISC for miscellaneous. Grab all of the images that are in there and copy them to your images folder, please. That makes sense to everyone? So, as an example, my images folder, starting in part 8, my images folder now looks like this. You won't need this cars one yet, but you can put it in there anyway. It won't matter. There's not a whole lot you have to do for this particular example, but if you would all look up on the screen, and I know a lot of you just like to start typing right away, but if you can stop for just a second, and everybody could take a quick look up here. For every one of these, what we're going to want to do is to come in here and add this. So don't start typing it because I just want to explain it to you. I'll give you time. I'm going to recommend that after you put that in, copy it down to the other two because the only thing you have to change is the source. All right, so you should be able to do this in 5 or 10 minutes. But we're telling it to open in a new window. All right, our class now is thumbnail. That's the image that we're going to put in. If you have it in your images folder, it's called HTML5 ping. There's the width and there's the height. Now that's not great. We could have put that into regular CSS too, but I just left it there. And there's our alt. So please make sure that your first row looks like this. I'll give you a minute or two. Then you can copy it down or whatever. But in about 2 or 3 minutes, I'll go down to the next one. So this is in your main content area, right after your div class equal row. You can always check it by just putting in that first one, save, run it again, and see if now you have the HTML5 logo in there. You might want to do that first before you even copy it down to make sure everything you're putting in is correct. Give you 2 more minutes and I'm going to move it down. The next one will be the same thing except that the path for the source will be different and the alt text will be different. But other than that, it'll be the same thing. down to the next one. So after you already put that, if you put that one in save, run it again and make sure then you have your first two images. Give you a minute, then I'll scroll it down one more time, and then that'll be it for this particular iteration. I see Colin there testing his to make sure that it's still responsive, and you should be doing that also. All right, I'm going to drag up to the last one. And once you've got that, that should be, as far as I know, that should be everything. So once you put in the last one, you've verified that that works, save it. All right, and get out, copy everything into your version 9 or part 9. Go in, open up the index.html for part 9, all right, and change the title. I'll double check. I don't think there was any extra CSS we had to add for this one. I'm virtually 100% sure that there wasn't any, but I'm going to check anyway just to be sure. Nope. And if you can stop for a second, can I, everybody just stop for a second. I'll leave it up there, but I want to say something to you. Now, just so you know, these three images together are somewhere in the area of about 12 meg. So if you keep copying it to part 9, part 10, part 11, part 12, and part 13, that's going to be, you know, somewhere upwards of 50 to 75 meg extra on your machine. All right, so what you can do if you want is, you know, just have the images thing. You could put it somewhere else, or every time that you copy it over, remove the images from where they are. All right, but if I remove the images from here and I try to run this one, it's not going to show the images. So it's up to you. I know I've got one of my second year students, he's got a very old machine with a very limited amount of hard disk space. So, questions on that iteration? It's All right. If I could get your attention for just a minute, if you could look up front here. All right, so now we've done 7, we've done 8, so now we're going to do 9. And when you first look at it, 9 might not look a whole heck of a lot different than 8. So there's 9. We make it small so it's about the same size as the other one. All right, but you may or may not be able to tell. Look at the font here. Everybody see the font? See that? Now look at the font here. What we're going to do now, what I'd like you to do, if you would, is just, sounds weird to say to Google something, Google Fonts. And it's under fonts.google.com. They keep changing the number of fonts that are available. All right? They keep changing the number of fonts that are available. It was 854, now it looks like it's down to 847. I don't think you probably have the time or the desire, but you might want to just scroll around a little bit and see if there's a font that you're interested in. For instance, please look up on the screen here. Okay, let's say that I decide, I like this catamaran. I like this thing. So if that happens, click the plus sign up here, and it's going to show you then down here what you have to do. All right? In order to use that, you're going to have to come in and add that line to your file. You're going to have to add that line. All right? Then in your CSS, you're going to have to add this. So for any one that you add, it's going to have a different thing here and a thing here. So I will show you, if you look up on the screen here, I will show you the ones I added. I just arbitrarily picked 2 of them. All right, so here is one of the ones that I added. I actually used 2 of them. And I'd suggest that you do 2 of them also. You don't have to choose the ones that I've chosen, but put those 2 lines in, and I put them right up above the links to my own style sheet. So you can use the one that I have, or you can use your own. It doesn't matter. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to put that in, not 3 minutes, it's 9:27. Then you have to open up your CSS file for part 9. All right? Again, please don't think you have to use the fonts I used. Pick any one you want. We're going to change 2 different things. I believe, I'll come right back here, I don't think there's anything else that we have to add onto this page. Nothing. Okay, I don't think there's a lick. The only other thing we have to do is add to our CSS. Now, nothing's going to show on your screen until you add the CSS. So if you save this and run it, it'll look exactly the same as it did before. I'll give you the CSS in a minute. There's just a couple lines we have to add. All right? But I want to wait. Like I said, I'll give you 1 more minute. And I want to go over what's in here. There's a couple terms you may or may not have ever heard of before. Yes.
Should we separate them? Because if you add 2, it combines them into one.
Oops. What do you mean?
Like, on the link it gives you, if you have 2 fonts selected, it combines them into one.
You did it like I did it here?
Well,
Did you try doing them both together, or did you try doing them one at a time?
Both together.
No, do them one at a time. Then I won't do that. It's doing what it thinks you want. You know, that's not what we want here, though. Now, just so you hear the terminology, if you'd all look up on the screen here, you've done this before, HTTPS, fonts, Google, that's no biggie. This may or may not be new to you. The thing in gray up here. If you look up on the screen, that, and actually it's not it's that. That is referred to as a query string. The URL that we have here is https://fonts.googleapis.com/css. That's the URL. What comes after it is information that the URL needs. The URL needs to know what family we're using and what the name of the family is. That's a query string. So if you get something on your screen that's got a question mark followed by a bunch of stuff, that's a query string. You will hear that again in later classes. All right? I'm hoping everybody has this, and I'm going to give you the style sheet. This is what I used. If you use the ones that I've used, then you'll want to put in this. And I made my H3 tags bold. You don't have to do that, but I did. That's the new CSS is what's shown right there. I put it right up above my footer text. After you put that in, and if you put in the first thing I showed you and you save and you run it, you should notice a marked difference between version 8 and version 9 as far as your fonts go, and your H3 headers should be bolded now, etc. So it should look a little more dramatic, for lack of better words. You can always go back on your own and you can choose any font you want. You can choose anything you want. All right? If you get everything to work, you know the drill by now. Save everything, get out, copy everything you have from part 9 to part 10. We'll do part 10, and then we'll call it a period for this project. And then tomorrow we'll try to do 11, 12, and 13. 13's got a bit of typing. Any questions on this one? So we're saying we want the paragraphs, if possible, to have Pangolin font. If you can't find that, use cursive. We want the size of our paragraphs. Normally they'd be 16 point, but now they're going to be, I guess, 20 point. Our H1, H2, H3, that should be a comma there if you look on the screen. That should have been a comma. There should have been a comma after H3. H4, H5, and H6 is going to have a font family of candle, and the H3s will have a font weight that's bold. All right, I'm looking at some of your screens, and I think at least, you may or may not agree, but it's coming together. Yes. And this just shows you, just so you know, if you look up on the screen here, you can use either double quotes or single quotes. It doesn't matter. But if you start with a double quote, you must end with a double quote. If you start with a single quote, you must end with a single quote. But it, what's that?
Is that the same in CSS?
For the most part, I believe so. Yeah. It won't be for. No, it will be for JavaScript as well. Again, once you finish, if you have not done so already, save everything, close everything, go into part 10, copy everything over into part 10. All right. Change the title for part 10 from part 9 to part 10. We'll pick it up there in just a second. If you want, you can look on the screen here. So we've now done, let's look and see what part 10 is going to give us. All right. Doesn't really look any different, but I believe this is the one where we go into the about form. Now we're going to build this. All right. Not a lot of code, but we're going to build a Bootstrap form. All right. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so what I need you to do once you've opened up part 10 and once you have changed your title from part 9 to part 10, what we're going to put in here is going to be put inside of that modal that we did before. Everybody understand? Go down to that modal area that you had before in here. So this is what you had right up until there. So again, your line numbering might not be the same as mine, but go down to right there. And after you've got modal content, this is what we're going to put. It's quite a bit of typing. There's more than just what's shown on here. But I want you to get to the right place. And once you get into the right place, you can start typing this. I'll just leave it right there. All right, I'll let you start with that. We'll move our way down. Probably about 40 or 50 lines of code that you have to type. couple of you are still typing, and that's fine, but if you look up on the screen, and you look at what's in gray up there, I just want to quickly explain this to you. Notice line 227 says form class equal form horizontal. Well, what's the opposite of horizontal? Vertical. So by default, if I create something and I've got like first name, colon, it puts the text box underneath it. It does it vertical by default. Did you hear that? I'm telling it horizontal, so I'm saying don't put that over here. Put it over here. Does that make sense? That's what the form horizontal does. I'm saying I want all of the components on my form to be horizontal. Again, for the screen reader's sake, I put role equal form. Then this thing right here, I'm going to remove it in just a minute, but that's going to be, for lack of better words, the title of my form, contact info. So notice it's type modal header. All right? Then I've got the modal body, which starts here. Modal body starts right there, but it's not going to end till way down here someplace. And in here, if you notice, basically everything that you put in, bless you, each line of stuff you put in will be inside of what's called a form group. All right, so I've got a label, for equals, you know what all that stuff is for first name. Then I've got the actual input type equal text. You should be able to look at that stuff and that should make sense to you. They tried to keep as pure as they could to the way HTML was written so you wouldn't have to change a boatload of stuff. Now I'm going to give you a minute or two and then I'm going to drag down so that this line here, this one is at the top. So I'll give you just a couple minutes in case you're still typing. We'll get this done, we'll take a break, and after the break, we're going to go over chapter 11 from your book. Well, we did 11 yesterday, I think. 12 from your book.
Input doesn't have an ending tag?
No, an input tag does not, even in HTML, an input tag does not have an ending tag. All right, so let me move this up to here. That's still not all of it.
Is the ID for last name supposed to be L name?
ID for last name. Yeah, the other one was F name, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, L name, last name, F name. should be an L. Thank you. A what?
Never mind.
Okay. Hoping we can get this done between 10 and 10:15, then a break, then we're going over chapter 12, then we're going to do the test review for chapter 11, and we are also going to run over one more time before your written test tomorrow, the test review for chapter 10. Does everyone have this one done? Like I said, if you are a slow typist, you have to learn to get faster. Next semester, we go a lot faster when we start coding. Oh, is that it? Yep, that's it. There's a little more, we have the footer on the bottom that'll close it, so it's just a couple more lines after this. I'm not going to change it, but if you look up on your screen here, I believe, I'm wrong, but I believe we could have said text type equal email right there. I think it would have worked just fine. Then it would have put in the natural email check. You can try that if you want. You don't have to. And I'll give you a few minutes. Let me know when you're done with this part right here. Then I'll scroll up, and then you'll just see a few lines at the bottom. That'll be it then. Again, I'm hoping that you don't think this is a waste of time, because when you are working next, in a couple weeks when you get your midterm and you have to bootstrap it, this gives you a baseline to start with. That's the idea behind it. Again, rather than typing in everything too, there probably is a lot of copying and pasting you can do, and then just make some fairly minor changes. Does everybody have all the stuff in gray keyed in? Yes? That up then. And that is everything. Good.
Did you have to close the text area? It's on line 273.
I don't know where it is. There we go.
The text
Message.
area, yeah, right there.
It's closed right here.
No, the first one is not. Doesn't have that
This,
name.
the end for this is here. This is all the text area right here.
Gotcha.
After you get all this stuff in, test it, make sure it works. If anybody needs me to, if yours doesn't work, I can just highlight all the form stuff and print you out a copy. I don't mind doing that. I don't want to print the whole thing out, but I'll print the form part out if you need that. And otherwise, again, you know the drill. If you got everything working, save it, get out, copy it all to part 11. That's where we'll pick it up then tomorrow. We'll do the last 3 parts. There'll be a lot more CSS that we're going to do tomorrow, so you know. Again, if you did get it done, I'll start up again at 10:15. All right, and we are going to be going over chapter 12 of the text at that time. So please try to get at least a small break in during that time. It. So again, tomorrow, 11, 12, and 13. So, part 11, notice there's a bunch of CSS that we have to put in. Everybody see that? We're going to change the coloring scheme. I don't think there's anything on here we're even changing, to be honest with you. I could be wrong, I'll check, but I don't think there's anything on here that gets changed. But if you look up on the screen here, now when we take our mouse and put it over areas, see how the color changes? So we'll do that, and the button colors will change, and these button colors will change. So we have to put in text, in some CSS to get all that done. So we'll do that first. Hopefully that won't take very long. Then we'll get to part 12, not part 121. We'll get to part 12, and I'm trying to remember what is new in there, and I don't, oh, that's the animation. And then finally we'll finish it up with part 13, and in part 13, what we have to do is we have to add the About page. All right? So I'm going to start up, I'll tell you what, I'll start up at 10:20, so if you need to take a 10-minute break, you have time. And at 10:20 then, we will start up on chapter 12. If I can get you to look up on the screen here for a minute, this is what we're going. I plan on doing on Thursday. This is a product. This is MobiRise. All right. Now, when you look, notice the form is a little different, but I can get it to move around. And this was done. This whole thing that you see right here, this whole thing was done, and I did not have to write a line of code. It's 100% drag and drop. All right, so we're going to do that on Thursday. If you want to follow along with me on Thursday, it's not mandatory, but if you want to, you're going to have to go out to mobirise.com and actually download it. All right? So there's MobiRise. You'll probably want to download the one for Windows. And he explains a little bit on it, about how to use it, etc. on there. All right, again, I'm going to start up in 9 minutes.